Like if someone goes to you and asks you, "Hey, Leech, how do I start? Trading stocks as of now? What are the steps to take there?"
Yeah. So if someone asks me that, and to all the people that are thinking about it, especially in times like this, the markets are on a recovery. So in terms
Mm-hmm.
of thinking about stocks, there's a lot of growth your money can achieve. Like if you get into it now, so now is the perfect time. And I think the first step would be to really study the stock market as much as you can. If you have friends, or if you have certain websites that you can find, YouTube, there's a lot of content there that can really teach you, the markets, how to read stocks. And it's pretty much universal. What applies in foreign markets in terms of being successful in stocks can also apply here. So whether you get a YouTuber, for example, from the States or the Philippines, there's a lot. So it's very much accessible to learn about it. And you can actually do step one with step two, which is opening an account. So you look for a stockbroker, which can be the banks or called financial or the others that are coming up and coming now. Look for a good stockbroker that you trust, that you can link your bank account to easily, so you can easily transfer funds. And this process may take a while, which is why if you want to get in fast, it could take up to 2 weeks kasi to open your account. So you can actually first try to open an account wherever, and then second step, and then right after that, or doing it sabay, you can also learn and educate yourself on the stocks. And I would advise, if you're new to the stock market, you can do one of two things, or you can do both. You can first, if you're gonna open a real account and you want to get real money fast,
Yeah.
you can opt to put some money into it, not a lot at first, because we're still learning the ups and downs of the markets, how to manage your emotions given the stock increase, stocks decrease, because it's very much a cerebral thing. So you have to learn how to manage emotions. So
Hi everyone, welcome to the Meaning of Life podcast. With me here today is Miguel Leechiu. Leech, can you tell us about something about who you are and what you do, man?
hi everyone. Shout out to mga friends ko. But for the others, hi, I'm Miguel. I'm here to talk about how I trade stocks, and I've been a frisbee athlete also. For those of you that play frisbee, maybe, or know the sport. I'm studying in De La Salle University, and currently taking up applied industrial economics and business management. So that pretty much sums me up. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you mentioned it a while earlier. Can you tell us something about like you trading stocks? Like how do you start with that and what happened?
Okay, that's a great story. I guess.
Yeah.
So I've been trading stocks since 2010, and I'm currently 21 years old. So I really started when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
It sounds crazy, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but I started not out of free will, unfortunately, but fortunately also for the rest of my life that I've been through, I guess. Fortunately, because my dad forced me to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
how it started was that he told me, "Hey Miguel, you're growing up. You need to learn how to manage money." And after all the summer jobs he'd given me prior to that, he was like, "I need to." He told me that it was about time he taught me how to manage money and make it grow, because it's an important life skill, according like my dad was telling me. And so he gave me this comic book, because I guess I was a kid. This comic
Uh-huh.
book to read, and it was a comic book on Warren Buffett's life, the most successful trader in history, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was very much against the idea, at the time, because I was like, Dad, come on, let me watch Phineas and Ferb, Cartoon Network or something, right? Yeah, but I couldn't. And he told me, no, you'll thank me for this, years down the road. You have to trust me. So there I gave the comic book a shot, and he told me, you need to give me a report on this, like a book report. I said, okay. And then I made a reflection on the book, and I actually delved into it. I got so interested, I got so immersed into it. And I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I could, kind of try to follow the footsteps of this guy. Not be Warren Buffett, my God, but, aspire to his level, right? And yeah, so I took the learnings there, and inspired from the story, we went to Call Financial, which is the first online stockbroker in the country. And we opened an account together. So he gave me a small starting amount. And from there, yeah, I started trading. And then he told me to make sure to report to him at the time because I was a kid. Like
Yeah.
before I make a purchase, he told me to show me my data or my basis for making this purchase. And then I would run it by him and then he would approve it or not, just to see if I'm getting the right, train of thought and thinking. And the first trade that I made, I remember it quite clearly. And my dad likes to tell the story to his friends, and I guess
Mm.
he was proud of me. But since when I was 11, I was still in grade school, I think, and they were teaching us basic Microsoft Excel. So I just learned how to graph
Yeah.
something on Excel. So I remember it so clearly. I looked at Phil Invest, Ayala Land, and SM, and I think Jollibee. So four stocks. And because I was a kid, I didn't know that you could search the prices online.
Mm.
So I went through the newspapers of the last 2 weeks and the business page. And
Yeah.
then I plotted each price of the last 2 weeks of stock price activity. And then I plotted on Excel, then I made graphs. And then I showed my dad and cross referenced it with a bunch of newspaper articles or online articles or news about these companies. And I told him, hey, dad, looking at the news, this is doing well as of now. And looking at the graphs, you can see that some of these prices are going down and some of these prices look like they're going up. So I want to catch the one that's going up. And with that, my final purchase decision was Ayala Land and SM at the time. So yeah, that's kind of like the story of how I started the stock.
Yeah. You know, when you mentioned comic book, I was expecting like baka DC or Marvel. Biglang Warren Buffett, very unexpected, like to give to an 11-year-old.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you were really reading into newspaper articles. That's crazy, man. I mean doing research papers way before college. That's advanced thinking on your end.
Grabe.
It's crazy.
Thank you, thank
Uh
you.
so like you still continue until today, until
Yes.
as of this moment. You still trade stocks online. Um what made you continue doing it, and what like what do you search for, siguro, when you're looking for a purchase or you're looking to trade stocks? What trends do you keep an eye out for?
All right. Thanks for these questions. I'll start with the first one. What made me continue? Well, my dad was the first advocate for this in my life, and then I guess I kind of became an advocate for this also, at which I'm very strong about it. And this is the message of that. Investing and growing your money is really something everyone can and probably should do. And you're never too young to start. That's the main point my dad wanted to teach me in
Yeah.
giving me the stock account. And in relation to Warren Buffett, he also started his first investments or his first business activities when he was 10 years old or 8 years old, even younger. He'd buy and sell Coca-Cola and stuff. And once I kind of got that idea, I said, yeah, it's kind of my responsibility to use, my means and to grow my money. And when I realized that I really can make my money grow, because of course I'm a kid, right, at the time,
Yeah.
and still sort of am, sort of. And yeah, I just realized that I can make money and keeping my future family in mind, the family I'll have one day, and all my goals, I guess. It's that I really do owe this to myself. And I owe it to my dad also to tell all my friends and all my loved ones and beyond, I guess, if I can, that they really can give this a try and it's not as difficult as it seems. And yeah, that's one thing. So that's what motivated me to really continue.
Yeah.
It's that anyone can really make money, and this is a life skill that will carry on till I grow old. And then for the others, like what do I look for in my trades or when I try to make a purchase decision? More often than not, I start with because we're college students, right? And it's kind of difficult to find the time to really religiously watch the market because of thing A and thing B and requirement B, C, stuff like that. So typically, I got into technical analysis. So there are two types of ways you can tackle analyzing stock prices. So one is the fundamental analysis, which has to do with a lot of the financial ratios, looking at the news and stuff like that. and the other side is the technical. So looking at the graphs and where the actual prices are moving. And using these two approaches, fundamental analysis takes longer, technical analysis quite faster because you just have to look at the graph. So if I'm gonna ask myself what I look for, typically I start with the graphs because I'm short on time. And I would just I'll keep a short list of companies that I know are good. So the blue chips, I guess SM, Jollibee, like the ones I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
GT Capital is doing very well now. All these other companies, and then every time I have the time every day, probably around 5 to 10 minutes, I would just look at the graphs of each one, and then if I see some sort of activity like the stock prices seems to be climbing more than usual, then I'll look into research, like look in the news, look at the company and their announcements, and see if there are all these projects that could affect how people see the company and therefore how they bid their prices in the stock market. And I guess one thing I've really learned in the stocks in relation to this is that stock prices are not as complicated to understand when you kind of ask yourself, how does it really move? Do the companies have all control over the stock price? But when you think about it at its simplest form, the thing that really drives stock price, movements is how everyone everyone in the world or everyone in the market perceives a certain company. Because if I'm me as a buyer or me as a seller, for example, if I hear that, oh, there's this news that Jollibee is gonna do well next year, then my perception of the company will change, and I'll think Jollibee is a great company and it has so much potential to grow. Therefore, me as a regular buyer, I would say it's worth more than it is as of now. It's worth a lot more. Therefore, I would bid the price higher, and then that movement across all people that trade in the market would cause some price action or cause the price to hike. So when you think about it like this, then I kind of just think about that and I look at what's happening now. So yeah, and I check the graphs. If it looks good, then I delve into research. Is there anything that's driving this stock price action? And if I find something strong, then I kind of say that, oh, okay, this is a good purchase decision to hold in the short term or the long term. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of it.
Yeah, so it's basically like based around market perception, no, of these
Yeah,
companies, of all the companies and corporations. So with that said though, did I would imagine there was a massive shift when the pandemic started, like going
oh
global and
yeah,
everything. So what happened to you, man, with the stocks and everything? I know there was a massive economic downturn when it began, and now we're still recovering, right? So
yeah. So yeah, globally, I think around the world, really, all the markets looked around the same in terms of graph patterns. If you look at all the markets and all the indexes available, it typically looks like in their normal cycles because stocks have like their cycles, right? And then when COVID happened, smack on that day, things just went
boom.
like that. And a lot of these stock markets around the world have reached new levels of lows that they weren't, really supposed to reach anymore.
Yeah.
And in our case, the Philippines, the last time our stocks were this low were like the global financial crisis, 2008, 2009. So that was really like a big hit. And what happened to me specifically, I guess I had an over optimistic view on what could happen in the stock market because I was, when we had all these restrictions, ECQ, and the government was like, oh, after 3 months, we'll be fine. We can open it, we'll be fine. You can
Yeah.
regular activities will happen.
That was a
So
scam.
that was the biggest scam, right? Yeah. And because I was so optimistic, and I guess I've never experienced a pandemic, but that's not an excuse for what I did. But I decided that, oh, since my last purchase of stocks was quite recent and the market was on a low level at the time, so I was expecting them to hike up back to their regular peak in terms of like the past cycles. I was expecting it to go up, but then it went even further down. So I guess some of my losses I just kind of held the stock and I was waiting for the comeback, the economic comeback of COVID, which was actually very recently, right? Just a few months ago when business activities opened again. Not the best for the people, right? But maybe better for the economy. But I was able to ride that wave back and make up for my losses. So that's kind of what happened to me.
Yeah. So as a person who's been trading for like 10 years or a little bit more than 10 years now, um what's your advice to a person who wants to start like now? Like what would you tell to a person? What are the steps like on how to start, trading stocks? Like if someone goes to you and asks you, "Hey Leech, how do I start, trading stocks as of now?" What are the steps to take there?
Yeah. So if someone asks me that, and to all the people that are thinking about it, especially in times like this, the markets are on a recovery. So in terms
Mhm.
of thinking about stocks, there's a lot of growth your money can achieve. Like if you get into it now, so now is the perfect time. And I think the first step would be to really study the stock market as much as you can. If you have friends, or if you have certain websites that you can find, YouTube, there's a lot of content there that can really teach you, the markets, how to read stocks. And it's pretty much universal. What applies in foreign markets in terms of being successful in stocks can also apply here. So whether you get a YouTuber, for example, from the States or the Philippines, there's a lot. So you can really, it's very much accessible to learn about it. And you can actually do step one with step two, which is opening an account. So you look for a stockbroker, which can be the banks or Call Financial or the others that are coming up and coming now. Look for a good stockbroker that you trust, that you can link your bank account to easily, so you can easily transfer funds. And this process may take a while, which is why if you want to get in fast, it could take up to 2 weeks kasi to open your account. So you can actually first try to open an account wherever, and then second step, and then right after that, or doing it sabay, you can also learn and educate yourself on the stocks. And I would advise, if you're new to the stock market, you can do one of two things, or you can do both. You can first, if you're gonna open a real account and you want to get real money fast,
Yeah.
you can opt to put some money into it, not a lot at first, because we're still learning the ups and downs of the markets, how to manage your emotions given the stock increase, stocks decrease, because it's very much a cerebral thing. So you have to learn how to manage emotions. So you can start with a small amount of money. That's one option you can take. Or the other option would be going to Instagrams, if you're familiar, Instagrams.com, or another stock program that offers this. It's basically the websites, or the web pages can give you virtual money, virtual play money. So you can make an account there, and then they'll give you 100,000 pesos of play money. So with that 100,000 pesos of just virtual money, you can act, and given the real numbers or the real price of the stock market, you can practice investing without actually facing the consequences of losing actual money. And then after a while of that and learning everything, you can apply it with real money naman. That could be a second option. So yeah, I think that's pretty much yeah, those are the steps you can follow if you want to get into the stock market. And I think at the core of it, you can ask yourself, why do you want to do this? And if you can find that answer, and my answer for that would be, you know, I need to find some other source of income for my future family, for my own growth, for my self sustenance and stuff, for longevity, and the fact that learning how to grow your money is a life skill, something I'll take with me to the grave. And that's my why. And if I guess if we all find that core driver for this, then we can all have the potential to be very successful stock investors.
I have some questions with what you said a while ago, earlier. First and foremost, like in creating an account, where do you get to do that? Do you just search like what do you search for? Like stock traders Philippines, and then just go to the links there, or yeah, how exactly do you create an account?
Yeah, actually, that's very much doable. I think a lot of people have done that also in the past. Like they just Google search stockbrokers Philippines. There will be a few options already. I think Wealth Securities is one. Call Financial, for me, the best, right? That I'm an advocate for that. And yeah, I've interned in Call Financial also before,
Oh
right before
really?
going to college. Yeah, so I learned a lot there. And um, I was up in front with everyone in their office, very good people. So if for the beginners, if you want to try, you can search up Call Financial, very credible. But also there are a lot of options online where you can really choose from. And in terms of application or your banks, most banks or insurance companies offer some stock accounts. So you can just call your banker or go to the bank and say, how do I open
Mhm.
an account that can invest in the stock market, so that can allow me to invest in the stock market. So the reason why you open these stock accounts is because we ourselves cannot actually buy the stocks ourselves. So we need a stockbroker, or basically the middleman, to buy the stocks for us, which is why they take small percentages of commission from our transactions. And yeah, in terms of application, it's all pretty much the same. You're given a form to fill out. Sometimes you might need a TIN number, other times you won't, and then you need some sort of funding, like a bank account, I guess. And then you just deposit the money and then wait a few business days, and that account should be accessible.
Yeah, and these stockbrokers are like real people, no? They're not like AI or something. That
Oh,
handle your account.
actually, yeah. Nowadays it's AI, because
Mm-hmm.
AI are just a computer
Oh,
system
okay.
that allows you to do it yourself. So if you guys have seen like Wolf of Wall Street, it kind
Yeah.
of looks like that. How back in the day when the internet wasn't super uso yet, it was very kalat. So the system before was, if you wanted to invest in stocks, you had to hire an actual stockbroker as a person, and then call
Mm-hmm.
them up, say, "Hey, buy me 5 shares of Jollibee." And then the guy who is in the stock exchange, the physical place, would run to the counter that has Jollibee and be like, "My client wants blah blah blah," and then that's how it would work out before.
Yeah.
But then nowadays, yeah, like what you said, since we have more technology now and everything's online, you can actually do it yourself. So when you open your account, you have the option, you have your money, your balance, and then you can type in the stock code and be like, I want to buy this stock. And then you yourself can be the one to input what price you want for it and everything. So in that sense, it's all self-managed. But the stockbrokers, even if they're online and not actual people, still have the licenses to actually make the purchase for you. So yeah, that's kind of how it works nowadays.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So what would you say is like what's your advice on like a nice starting out amount when like creating an account and like your first like purchase or something? What's a nice amount to start with?
Okay, for me, that's kind of relative. I guess it just depends on it will largely depend on, I guess, how much you're willing to spend or how much you're also willing to lose. Because if you're starting, it's a very big possibility that you might be losing some. And some stockbrokers actually offer as low as 1,000 pesos to start with. But the thing is, with that 1,000 pesos, you might not be able to purchase all the stocks that you might want in the market. So, let's say, for example, there's this thing that exists in the stock market called a board lot. And that means you need to buy a minimum of X number of shares per stock to actually buy it. So, for example, if a certain stock costs, let's say, 500 pesos per share, and the board that's 10 shares. So it means you need to have a minimum transaction of buying 10 of those shares. So
5,000.
if it's 500, yeah, 5,000. So if you only start with 1,000, then you might not be able to reach that minimum. So 10,000, that 5,000 is a good amount. But of course, if you would like to start with 1,000 also, that's perfectly fine, because you'll still be able to find stocks you can buy.
Do you are you an aggressive trader or parang passive lang naman na you purchase and then you trade here and there, or do you like trade religiously like super aggressively?
I think I'm more on the passive trader, and I'm more long term than some of my other friends.
Mm.
I know some people that really watch the market every tiny increase per minute, and the next 30 minutes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider myself that kind of person. I'm more on the passive side. But when there are opportunities that I see that can really hike up for example, in a span of like a week or 3 days, even if I see something that could a transaction I can make that will be successful in that span of time, then that's when I aggressively watch the market and I'm really into it and stuff.
Okay. Do you have like top tips na you think college students should like know uh in like beginning or trading stocks like na you think people should generally know before starting?
Yeah, I think one. I'll start with this one. I think one very important tip as a college student would be very much managing your emotions. So, like I kind of touched on this earlier, but
Yeah.
you know, typically you would learn a thing or two about stocks and say, okay, you need to make a certain range at which you should buy, and a certain range at which you should already sell or cut your losses or earn profits. And a lot of it is managing emotions because the thing, a lot of people think that stocks is gambling. That's a lot of people's philosophies on the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
But what I could say to that is that it only becomes gambling when you're controlled by your emotions more than your intellect and your discipline. So if you could train your willpower to not be affected by the ups and downs of the market, and train your emotions to not control your actions, that's the very first thing I would say that someone should know when trading in the stock market. And second is really doing your research and learning your craft, and especially getting into, I think, graphs especially that can save a lot of time, and that can really help when timing your purchase decision. If not the perfect time, at least in the right time range of when the stock goes down and then goes back up. You can find that perfect zone at which you can buy it. As a
Yeah.
college student, it would really help save time. So I guess and I know we're all busy in college, so I think another tip could be really focusing at least a few weeks to really learn this, and then you can kind of cruise control for the rest of it. So at least commit a certain amount of time to really grind and prioritize this. Then you can kind of get back to the regular college dynamic of school and everything, and then you can kind of relax knowing that you made the right decisions because you have that base knowledge already. So I guess in just the start, especially, you have to really grind, and once you have a good knowledge base, you'll be okay after that. So yeah, I guess those three things. Number one, managing emotions. Number two, learning enough, and number three, grinding, especially at the start.
Yeah. And with research, like I feel like these days it's much more easier to actually research compared to like 10 years ago when you
Hundred
started.
percent, 100%.
Because everything's on the internet and you can actually see everything, just one Google search and it's there, like, and things are consolidated na, and like some websites that like really graph it for you, the stock prices and the trends and everything. So ngayon it's perfect, like use your Christmas ang paus to like
Exactly,
to
exactly.
invest, di ba?
Yan
Perfect.
ang investor moves. Yeah, money moves.
Diretso from the red diretso from the red pouch to the to the account. Ayun, no.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm
Uh,
gonna do.
anyway.
Yeah, in the
um,
process.
yeah, so actually we mentioned before we started yung how like we're going to be graduating a few years, exactly like a couple of years from now, 2022. uh I wanted to ask you, as like someone who's been very much involved now with this, the stock market and everything, what's your plans after graduation? Like, what do you plan to do after you graduate from DLSU?
Yeah, that's a question I ask myself a lot also. Joke, but from my reflection and everything I'm kind of learning and about the world, I kind of feel this calling to the renewable energy industry. And at first, I had sort of these two paths ahead of me. One path was getting into the world of finance, more on stocks and growing money for other people and stuff. Maybe possibly investment banking. And the other path I had was, trying to sell renewable energy, get into a company, wherever, and try to earn that way. And lately, I've been sort of juggling the options, but I really do feel a calling towards renewable energy. Partly because one, I've always been very much interested in tech, and I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about it. And number two is that I've always wanted to do something, apart from making bank and making money for my family that I'll have one day. It's also trying to save the world in any way that I can. So I
Mm-hmm.
think putting my skills and my effort and my time into something such as renewable energy can kind of help in all those things. And that would be like kind of the plan. Maybe someday start my own firm that sells solar panels or even electric cars. Bring Tesla to
Yeah.
the Philippines. That would be a
Yeah.
dream. One day, one day. And to kind of get there, I'm planning to do my college internships, and gonna try to enter some firms that maybe can teach me a thing or two, so I know the ropes if this is really for me or I should really get into finance,
Are
and
you
then
eyeing some firms right now?
none in particular, but I'm looking into it, and um, after I graduate college, which is sort of in a year or so, I'm planning to take a gap year and maybe move to San Francisco for a few months
Yeah.
or more, and then try to intern in tech firms over there. And I really think this is a good path for me because a number of industries will definitely boom given the fourth industrial revolution, and technology is making its climb, and more people, well, being more specific in technology, more and more people are realizing the efficiency you can achieve with solar power, with electric cars and stuff like that. Just in all sense of renewable energy. So I feel like I really want to help, that transition into that sort of world and that vision. I would love to be
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you knew Andrew Yang. Do you know Andrew Yang?
No, I'm sorry.
Cause I heard from him. He used to be a Democratic presidential candidate for the last election, and I heard from
Oh,
him the concept of the fourth industrial revolution, which is quite, which you mentioned, you touched on. It's quite profound because the boom of like AI and technology is so
yes, AI.
unprecedented these days, right? And it has a lot of pros and cons. Like, um, it does simplify a lot of processes, like solar panels, renewable energy, and um, our computer software, which is growing like so much more powerful these days. But also, it can also affect the economy in a negative way in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
short term because of for one example, like self-driving cars. There are a lot of drivers, right? There are a lot of drivers around the world. Here in the Philippines, we have a lot of drivers. And when self-driving cars like can take over the market because they're eventually going to be cheaper. Like one payment for a self-driving car is cheaper than paying a driver like for the
yeah,
rest. Like a truck, 'di ba? Kunyari truck driver,
yeah,
like a self-driving truck doesn't make mistakes. Kunyari okay na yung software niya and stuff. And that
100%.
shift in the economy is like going to be so monumental, and it's gonna affect so many things in the world. And these days, now that the world is like changing ever so often, siguro nga na catalyzed ng pandemic, like how much we like rely on, like it brought to light how much we rely on technology so much, like online
Yeah,
shopping, online
really does.
deliveries. Yeah. It really did like, expose like, okay, this is our world. We really need these stuff. Like the internet, siguro before like 10, 20 years ago, it was like a
Sucks lang, di ba?
luxury.
Parang, yeah,
Pero ngayon, like we really need it. Like if without it, the world like crumbles.
part
Ah.
of the meaning of life na eh. Kasama dyan yung internet eh.
Kailangan na, kailangan na. Like,
Kailangan na lahat ng tao. But yeah, like I just want to comment on like what you said. Yeah, it really has me. This has been such a topic of conversation with me and my dad especially, and even from an economist perspective, um, we've had industrial revolutions in the past, right? And sort of how
mhm,
certain jobs that exist today didn't exist before. Like for example, if you're the one operating the let's say a factory line, like
yeah,
before. In the past, when you'd make a car, for example, it would be like the car would stay there stationary, and then you just put all the parts in. But like
yeah,
come from Ford and that industrial revolution at the time, they made the conveyor belt sort of format where things just get passed on to the next, and then that's the format it kind of goes on. And the machines that operate before, they didn't exist before that. So those are new jobs, sort of.
mhm,
And I guess with the definition of what machines are really, it's that to make work more convenient. But I think the thing with our industrial revolution today and the past industrial revolutions is that although in the past jobs would be kind of destroyed, but then new jobs are created at the same
yeah,
time. The thing is nowadays it's the first time that technology is actually learning, and for me that's what's scary.
yeah,
And like what you said about the Philippines, how to sort of generalize it, a lot of our workers are, in terms of complexity, they're sort of classified as low complexity jobs. It's like the majority of our population, right? A
Mm.
lot of custodians, a lot of drivers, a lot of, I guess, farmers also kind of counts, but then also call center workers. We're very service oriented. But that's exactly what, a lot of the AI and technology being developed nowadays is sort of,
Yeah.
taking on the service sector. So yeah, it's I don't even know how the future is gonna look like, but I'm really hoping for the best.
Yeah, kaya nga people are saying, 'di ba, na ano, people should start to learn how to code because
Yeah, yeah,
that's gonna be the trajectory of the future. But let's be honest here, coding is not like a simple thing to
for
learn
everyone.
for everyone. Because here in the Philippines, like first and foremost, not everyone has the equipment to learn coding. Not everyone has like the mental bandwidth to actually want to learn how to code because it's not if we're being honest, it's not like it's not
Not the funnest
for
thing, right?
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's not for everyone.
yeah. And for call centers nga, like, diba, imagine if that gets, it's gonna be so creepy. First and foremost, like, when AI learns how to copy, cause it's a repetitive process, and machines, take over most of the time repetitive processes. So being a call center worker could be in danger if like machines learn how to reply to common inquiries and like mimic human
Yeah,
voice, cause Siri nga pa lang, 'di ba? Like Siri is like
yeah, yeah. Feeling nga nakikinig sila eh.
'di ba?
Actually, I think some that technology exists. Like, if I'm not mistaken, my dad told me before about developments in Silicon Valley and in the States, how they have this sort of technology that you can purchase as a call center earner that can
Mm,
replace around like probably 80% of the call center. Because that one
yeah.
AI will actually, if you call it and stuff, it'll actually give genuine replies already. And the whole thing about machine learning, about like weights,
Yeah.
the more data points you feed it, the more accurate it becomes. And this AI specifically in the call centers, like if you had a call center of 500 people or 5,000 people, after you apply that AI and it learns enough, it can take like how many calls at the same time. And then only when the call reaches this level of complexity that is too much for the AI, that's the only time they turn it over to a human operator.
Yeah.
And because of that, from that 5,000 population of employees, it can go down to 500. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And that's good for the company because like it's cheaper to not pay
Way
like
cheaper.
4,500 people. But that's GG's for the workers, man.
That's
Like,
GG, sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Workers
scary.
for that.
Oh, and you mentioned you actually mentioned you mentioned your dad a lot throughout the course of the podcast. It's I
Yeah.
think I can say that it's pretty clear na he's had a really big effect on your like outlook in life, and like siya nga yung nag-inspire sa'yo to like start trading stocks, and where you are right now. I guess it's been, our parents have a large effect on where we want to be and where we are currently right now.
100%.
So yeah, and you guys actually have a family business, right? In real estate, if I'm not mistaken.
So my
Yeah.
dad, yeah, he's the CEO of Leechiu Property Consultants, and we act as middlemen in all these transactions. So if you want to sell a property or buy a property, you can come to us, and we'll look for someone who can, you can sell it to or buy a property from, and we just take some commissions in the middle. So yeah, that's our family business.
Are you actively involved with your family business?
I actually really thought that I would be, especially earlier on. Let's say back in 2012, my dad would take me with him to some meetings just so I could kind of learn how to talk to people and see what's going on. And that after that, I thought I would sort of be, because we're a Chinese family, especially the eldest sort of spearheads taking over the company,
Yeah.
learning the ropes and everything. I thought that would be me, and for the longest time, exactly what you said. I really look up to my dad. He's like my idol in life, all his philosophies and stuff. I subscribe to all of them and advocate for all of them. And he's been such a good mentor. So I really wanted to, do my best to you know, take over him and maybe, fill his shoes if I can. As difficult as it seems for me because he's such a great worker. But then he
Yeah.
did sit me down one time and he told me that he doesn't want us to work in the industry and to work in the business. And the main reason he said was that, son, it's too stressful and there are easier ways to make money. And I was very confused, right? Because I'm like, Dad, you gave us this life, you worked so hard, and it's not like we were unhappy with you. Then he told me, but do you remember I was, I would come home so late. I would wake up so early to work. It was very stressful, demanding on my body. It's really not for everyone. And he told me that the biggest, I guess, sort of regret that he could have is that he didn't spend too much time with us, which is why he's trying to sort of make up for it nowadays. So I kind of get it when he said that. And the other reasoning was that, um, so I think the three generation syndrome, so you can call it, or the three generation
Yeah.
phenomenon, where he's the first generation, right, that sort of builds the business. And the way that thing goes is like first generation builds it, second generation maintains it, and then the third generation just loses it, you know. That's sort of the cycle that we've seen throughout the years in a lot of family run businesses. And it's rooted a lot in how everyone's raised there. And my dad went through a lot, so he knows that we had a better life than him. That maybe we won't have those motivations required and stuff. But then he sort of told me that we have to break this, Miguel. We can't let this happen to our family. And with that, he told me that he wants us to find what we really want to do and
Mm-hmm.
something that's not forced onto us. In that sense, I guess you can kind of restart the cycle. In that sense, I guess, because if I'm not running what he built, I'm sort of building my own thing first, and then maybe I can pass it on to my kids. Maybe I can tell them, find your own thing, find what you really want in life, so that he's assured that intrinsically we know we know what we want, we know what we're doing, and this is a passion we can follow to the end of the road. Nothing forced onto us.
Yeah. And your passion, if I'm not mistaken, is like renewable energy and tech, right?
Yeah, I'd say.
That's what you're leaning towards. Uh and when you do have like if and when you do have like a child, remember to give him or her the comic when he or she is 10 years old now, just
Definitely,
continue
I
the
will look for it.
tradition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really gonna
Uh
happen.
and actually, ayun nga, that's insane. I've heard of the three generation syndrome before, and it's something you can actually observe, no. Cause
Yeah,
there is a psychological effect when you started the business. Of course, you're very motivated to actually push forward
make it
and
grow and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, make it grow and break the boundaries, and there's a difference also when you're like born with it, and there's a huge difference when you're born with a person who was born with it, the person who was born with
yeah,
it. So it's like
lifestyle,
it's
right? Yeah,
yeah, lifestyle changes, which is not anyone's fault. It's just how I guess the mind works. uh just something like that. So ayun nga. But now that you also mentioned a while ago, you were like you are a frisbee player.
yeah, I did.
Um yeah, so you played frisbee a lot. I don't know, do you still play frisbee a lot these days?
It's very difficult. Of course, I kind of toss, or just me and my brother, we kind of throw at each other sometimes. But it gets boring because it's not, of course, the game of ultimate frisbee. So I kind of
Yeah.
drifted away from that. But then I do keep my skills, kind of just intact and stuff.
I tried to play frisbee before. I was sa beach. It's the first time I played ultimate frisbee, like nung time na yun. I was like with sila Andre and their barkada.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
know how they're all like super fit and stuff. They're all crazy, crazy fit. Tapos ako, dude, I was like, crap, man. After siguro 5 minutes, nagka-cramp na yung thighs ko. It's like, so, sabi ko, I can't keep up. I can't keep up. So I was just being a distraction na lang. Kasi it's in sand ba? So, mas mabigat
No,
yun,
yeah,
no,
sand
right?
is crazy. Sand is crazy.
Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you, man, from a person who's not fit to a person who is, what what's your tip on remaining fit during the quarantine? Like what's your advice on that?
Okay, in terms of maintaining fitness in the quarantine, I think it has a lot to do with just being resourceful, you know. I mean, a lot of us are used to paying gym subscriptions, yung mga Golds promo, ganon, or Anytime Fitness. But of course, that's not accessible nowadays. Well, you can, but it's high risk. You'd really be surprised how much, you can kind of do at home, even without so much equipment. Like, my family purchased gym equipment very late in the quarantine. But earlier in the quarantine, all we had was like a we found like a ledge, like a bar that we could use. And yeah, we just did pull-ups, got creative, and we managed to stay fit. Or a lot of calisthenics, so like body weight workouts. They can actually really keep your physique and keep your athletic, capabilities very high still. And there's always room to grow. And then another thing would probably be just diet, like lessen the
Yeah.
rice every now and then, stuff like that. Yeah. See a dietitian, like a lot of really good ones out there actually. And yeah, that's mainly the thing.
So you don't advise eating rice during dinner, mga ganon? No,
Yeah,
na.
probably dinner, but like morning is pwede, lunch is pwede. Dinner is like one meal, don't eat rice na lang. Or don't eat rice at all in all meals of the day, but you can juggle it so you keep that
Yeah.
sort of cycle. And
Cause,
yeah.
cause rice, like rice makes your, I don't know, makes your stomach real big. I feel like
Yeah,
it does. Cause I eat a lot of rice, and that's what I experience.
same man.
That's what
Eat
I
on
experience.
carbs, food baby. Yeah, food
Yeah,
baby dude.
food baby.
Yeah.
Yun nga, bringing it into the fold and tying everything together, like everything that you do in your life. It's pretty for me. It's pretty, it's pretty actually what you said a while ago. It's pretty cerebral as well. Yun nga, dealing with stocks, but also it's pretty, how you handle like um your philosophies and stuff, and just continuous growth during this pandemic and everything. Um, what for you is, why do you do all this stuff? What for you is the meaning of life, so to say, or how do you interpret that like question or that phrase when it comes to your mind?
Okay. I think I might have two separate answers for those questions. Um, if I ask myself like maybe why do I do all these things, I think me personally, I just always want to keep growing in any way that I can. Like how if I'm not playing frisbee nowadays, I got into golf and I'm very competitive in everything that I do. I guess I'm just a
Yeah.
natural sort of competitor, so I really want to find new ways to grow all the time. And if I'm stagnant, it just doesn't feel right. So sort of that kind of thing, I owe it to myself. Kind of like how if you know the parable of the talents, you gotta use what you gotta make,
Yeah.
with what you're given, you have to grow it, and you owe that to yourself. And in terms of like that's sort of why I guess I do these things. But in terms of the meaning of life, um, I honestly think for me personally that the meaning of life can be centered around two things, and that would be love and happiness. So um, I think the meaning of life, or we are all put here on this earth to do our best to love other people around us and to make them happy as much as we can, in a very genuine way. And, putting smiles on people's faces and, being happy yourself. It's a sort of a give and take thing, And, true happiness can come in true giving of yourself also, which is, rooted in love. So I think that ultimately that's what we're here for. For me, that's the meaning of my life. I just want to love as best I can, love everyone as best I can, and really, understand people as people, as persons, not really, being quick to judge, which I guess a lot of people also do nowadays, and just keeping strong advocacies for empathy and
Mm-hmm.
really understanding a person, and befriending them. So yeah, for me, love is one of the main things, and I guess happiness is the other also because life is short and you can be the richest person in the world. You can be, very poor as well. But none of these things, are real metrics of happiness. So I feel like finding one's happiness in life is also the key driver to everything. And yeah, I guess doing my best to love everyone makes me happy, Yeah. And I'm happy now.
Yeah. Yeah, and to wrap it up, I mean, I can attest to that. I definitely very much agree. Love and happiness, they're two separate concepts, but they're very much intertwined with each other. And what you said a while ago is like, bringing love or loving others, bringing love into other people's lives is what makes you happy. I think, uh, that's a universal recognition of happiness, and like what what really makes people, happy. It's really satisfying to bring smiles to other people's faces. It's one of the things you can't buy talaga. And I can attest to you, man. I can say that you have a very much very uh wonderful sense of empathy na it's rare. It's rare. It's pretty underrated. I feel like empathy is pretty underrated. People I feel like people
Same.
give too much attention to like intelligence and looks and like um wittiness and like all those other things, but empathy like kind of gets thrown under the bus. But it's very important, diba, in people's lives to be empathetic, because not only does it make other people, feel better about themselves, but and it also improves like your understanding of other people and how you relate to others, and that's very important in life. And siguro the last question I want to ask you, uh what would you say is has been like the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
I think for me, the most important learning I have has to do with happiness. You know, there was that 75-year study by Harvard, and do you know about this? Do you know this study? I'm not too sure if you're familiar, but
Nah, and I'm sure.
it, okay, yeah. So it was a 75-year study on happiness, actually, and it's the longest study on people ever done. So
Mm-hmm.
over 75 years, they tracked the lives of these teenagers until the point at which they died. And the most important finding that they had on happiness throughout the whole thing was that those who the one of the main factors, or the biggest factor that has to do with happiness, is having good relationships. So, and those who were had good relationships and were very happy also lived longer and healthier lives based on their study. So for me, I found that as a really big revelation. It was amazing, and how really, all these good relationships are rooted in humans being social animals or social beings, and
Yeah.
connect through connection with someone can really change your vibe, your whole life and stuff. And for me, that's something I really be also an advocate for. I think for the rest of my days, how life is, like, again, like what I said earlier, life is short. It has all its ups and downs, but the constants that can be in your life are those loved ones that are there for you. These genuine connections, these good relationships, whether your friends, your family, or your lovers. Each of these things will are the real keys to happiness for me. Like, I could earn $1 million. I'd be like, woo, buy all this
Yeah.
stuff, or buy more stocks. I'd be like, woo. But then if I'm doing that all by myself and I don't have good friends, if I have bad relationships with my family, that would just suck. That would be sad. There's no purpose. There's no higher purpose for it. There's no legacy in other people.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's the most important thing I've learned in my life.
Yeah, and I don't even want to say anything after that because I think you put it very much beautifully. So,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Leech, for taking the time today to actually have this conversation with me, and hope to see you soon, man. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me,
Leech.
Boss Tano.